This is a Hydenellum. They call it the blue tooth. And these pits or holes right here sometimes is full of a gelatin-like sappy substance. And in this particular species yesterday, it was a beautiful, beautiful blue. It looked like a blueberry jelly. And these Hydenellums kind of envelop whatever they're around. Sometimes they'll envelop leaves. This one, you can see that leaf is in there really tight. It just kind of envelops everything. The blue tooth, Hydenellum species. Let's go see some other neat stuff. In my area of southern Michigan, this particular mushroom is not very common. I don't get to see it very often. I just recently read kind of a short but neat article on how this is an inhibitor to specific influenza viruses. And it resembles a button birch polypore. It can't really be mistaken for a birch polypore, and the reason that it can't be mistaken for a birch polypore is because this grows on pine. And birch polypore, of course, grows on birch. And now they call it the veiled polypore because it's a polypore, but it keeps a veil on it. They don't get too much bigger than this, and they will turn kind of an orange brown. When they're fresh, the extract can be used to make not an immune builder, but there's the spores being released. This veil stays attached until it just is almost deteriorated. Grows on conifers, has white flesh, turns cream to almost like a bun color, and this veil usually doesn't open until the mushroom is completely deteriorated. Grows on conifer. I shouldn't say pine, it grows on conifers. That's a little better word. I get ahead of myself sometimes. But it's a very interesting mushroom. There's not a lot of research on it, but there is some research. Most guidebooks will list it as inedible, but there has been some experiments with this mushroom medicinally. The veiled polypore, it's a rare bloomer in southern Michigan, and one that Dawn and I plan to do some experimenting with. Again, it's not an immune builder, but it is, at least data has shown that it could possibly be an inhibitor for H1N1 and other influenza viruses. This is Haplopolis vertiliens, formerly Haplopolis nigilans, the tender nesting polypore. This is also called the cinnamon bracket and the purple dye bracket. A couple of neat things about this particular mushroom is it's a bracket fungus and it's poisonous. But it's a bracket fungus that can make purple dye. And if you put KOH on the surface of this, it'll turn a beautiful lilac to purple color. I don't have any KOH with me. Dawn and I are way out in the back country. The top is kind of unremarkable. It's cinnamon here to yellow orange. It's usually fuzzy when it's fresh, and it's pliable when it's fresh. And then the fuzz will go away as this ages. The underneath side is an angular pore. It's a polypore and is usually yellow to cinnamon in color as well, depending on its age. It is toxic, remember that. This is not an edible mushroom. It can be tested with KOH. Put a little drop of KOH on top and it'll turn a beautiful, beautiful lilac. The purple dye mushroom. Tender nesting polypore. There's another neat one right here. It's a slime mold. As a kid, I was fascinated with this. I used to call it tree fur when I was a little kid. But this is chocolate tube slime mold. Stomatitis splendus. It's a very cool, fragile slime mold. Let's go see what else we can find. Hi guys, I got a neat spring mushroom. You can find it all year, but typically it really favors spring. Favors small branches. Polypores alveolaris. The underneath side is a polypore, no gills. The top, when it's really fresh and not sun faded, is usually a little darker than this with almost a hint of red. But these pores, this is hexagonal polypore. These pores are kind of the dead giveaway of the mushroom. Now it has a very light but fragrant odor, and the fresher it is, the more fragrant the odor. Now this is listed in most field guides as inedible, and the reason is it's difficult to chew if you don't pick it when it's really, really fresh. It is not a delicious mushroom. It is edible if you find it fresh and you eat just these tips, but it is not a flavorful mushroom. Still, in the spring, when you see this oddly pored polypore mushroom, know that you found the hexagonal polypore. This is Berkeleys Polypore. We're in a drought in Michigan, and I think a lot of you guys know that. 2022, yay drought, can't find any mushrooms. But Berkeleys Polypore is a very distinct mushroom. I've had people ask if it's hen of the woods, I've had people ask if it's chicken, and I've had people ask if it's black staining polypore. But Berkeleys Polypore has a floret that is typically full in a radius. It is a polypore like all others. A porous surface. Black staining polypore will stain pore 20 to 30 minutes after cutting. This is Berkeleys Polypore. The tips are edible on fresh specimens. I think it's tough. I don't necessarily like the flavor. However, I am interested in learning how to make jerky out of this. Some people are making jerky out of the Berkeleys Polypore, the black staining polypore, and even hen of the woods. The Berkeleys Polypore is one that takes special notice because of its size. You can spot it a lot of times clear across the woods. This one I'm going to take home and see if these tips are good. They feel really pliable, so I don't think this one's going to be too tough. But it's an interesting Michigan mushroom, easily mistaken, I think, for beginners for the black stainer, which gets relatively large. And this one is the largest mushroom that I know of that grows in Michigan, Berkeleys Polypore. It's a really neat mushroom. I always enjoy finding it, and a lot of times you find it everywhere. You can see it's just starting. Ouch! Stung by those nettles. See this all in here? This is wood ear, auricularia. Grows on wood, favors box alder. It's a jelly mushroom, edible. Grows on wood is kind of your key identifier. Once you're familiar with the mushroom, you can tell the difference between this particular species and pizizas that might resemble them. Pizizas typically grow on the ground terrestrially. This grows on wood. I see it most often on box alder. Another neat thing, I just got stung by a nettle. We have the cure for nettle right here, jewelweed. Jewelweed oozes a cortisone-like chemical that you just rub on your sting and it stops it, and you can rub it on mosquito bites. It's also a pot herb. You can eat it. It's kind of bitter, delicious. Anyway, auricularia, wood ear, jelly mushroom that's edible. You can find it all year, but typically the largest blooms I find are in the spring.